Good morning and welcome back to the Yamaha engine rebuild malarkey. What time is it? It's 7:45 in the morning. It's bright and early. It's the only time I get to myself having kids, so that's why I'm licking fab again. I've got my cup of tea, I've got my Marmite on toast. Stuff of the gods this is. If you don't know what this is, it's lovely. It's appointed by the Queen, of course, and the late Philip. Okay, right. Plaster's fallen off my poor finger. It's healed, not too bad. Today, I've got some post. I've got some circlips in the post, and I got a full gasket set. Well, it says full gasket set. I could already see that certain gaskets are not in it. But so we can proceed. But first of all, I need to tidy this place up because it is a tip. So I'll be back once I've done that. Here we go. Cool. So I've tidied up a little bit. What I plan to do today, or this morning, or the next, I don't know, 20-30 minutes, is to basically clean up all the surface on the gasket surfaces. So from the head hair on the base of the engine there, base gasket sort of stuck on. I think they use some sort of sealant there along with the gasket. The head gasket surfaces are pretty cool. I'm going to take these bolts out now and put them into this bit of card. So that's exhaust, isn't it? So then I know which way they go back in again. You might remember that one is, and one of them is stuck, isn't it? That one. I'm going to see if I can get it out. It might just need screwing out, hopefully. Also these copper washers, they will need to be annealed, and I'll talk about that more at the time. But initially, I'm just going to make some rolls in here. I've just marked EX, so it's exhaust, the front, so I know that's the front, the order they're going in. Okay. What I'm also going to do today is, because I suspect that the reason why the piston rings have seized was because I think it was sitting with one of the valves open. Okay. Most likely the exhaust, because you're more likely to get sort of condensation build up in the expanse of the exhaust, hot and cold, and it probably would have gone up into the exhaust through the exhaust. Okay. So what I want to do is regrind the valves in, just to make sure they're sitting properly. There is a chance that we could do nothing to this head at all, put it back together, and it would run fine. Maybe initially it would sort of be low on compression until the hammering of the valve sort of got that seal back. But in the kit comes some oil seals for the valve stems, so I might as well replace those. But to get those out, you've got there's the two sort of the lifters, like lifter shafts, I guess you call them. You've got to pull them out first, I think. One there and one behind there. I think basically they've got a thread in them, and then you can we'll work it out when we get to it, but I think you can just pull them out by hand or some sort of slide hammer, which I don't have. And then you can pull the cam out itself, you can check that, and then we can get the valves out, hopefully with the only valve compressor tool that I have, which I've used on many engines, including VWs, BMW, Hondas. Hopefully this works. We'll see. But I'm just going to get that bad boy out first. What do we say they were? They were like a 12. Or 12 were they? Funny sizes. Yeah, that's why I put some pressure on that whilst pulling. It's just a straight through hole there. That's what it was doing. The threads were catching. So this is the shaft which holds the rocker in, and that you can see where the threads have been up against the side of it. That was where the bolt came out. I was wondering if I should have tapped it in a little bit more. I don't know, but I want to pull it out, so I don't want to tap it in anymore. I don't want to risk it, getting stuck. However, I did square off the threads a little bit. That shouldn't be a problem. I'll put that through a tap. When I say tap, I mean tap and dial. I mean shove it up the old, So I'll clean it up through a tap and make sure it's okay before I put that back in. Fingers crossed it's okay. A little twist off to make sure there's no swarf on there. It's nice and clean all the way up now. Okay, so there's no risk of damaging the block when you put that back in. After about a quarter of an hour brainstorming, trying to work out how to get this rocker shaft out of it, and I found out it's a M6 thread which you've got to pull out, okay, and not pull the thread out. You screw something in it, ideally a puller, and then shock it out. Because that shaft, about this long, slides out. And that's what holds your rocker arm in, okay. But I haven't got a puller, so I've been looking around for stuff to different size threads and different lengths of like threaded. Looking around, and I ended up finding this box of fittings and screws, etc. that I found in a wheelie bin actually. I'm a bit of a skinflint. And there's loads of M6, they're like sort of coach bolts sort of things. They fit in, but one of them is too small to get any sort of action on there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to weld two together, maybe in three. Yeah, I'm going to weld three together, and along the end of that I'm going to put something very heavy with some washers, as heavy as I've got, maybe a big socket, so I can get a bit of a shocking action. So I ended up making a puller out of those nuts. I actually put a nut and a nut there, screwed them as much as I could in towards each other, and then just welded. It's pretty, isn't it? Very sexy. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to put on heaviest bits of metal I can find, a bit of old camshaft, an old axle nut, and this big socket. So the plan is screw it into there, clamp this down, and then boom, 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 out she comes. But first, what I want to do is, with my old £5 heat gun, little Chaz's shop, I'm going to heat up all of this area here so it expands a little bit, okay, and hopefully we can get that pin out. So fingers crossed. My tea out of the way. Right, let's give this a go. Nice and warm. So, clamp, clamp, clamp. It wasn't getting in the way of my little puller thing. Let's see. Should be alright. Quite a strong big fat bit of casting there, nice and secure on the workbench. Which nothing goes flying. Screw in carefully. Don't want to. I'm saying that. Get his weight off here first, and then screw it in. As far as I can get it in. As far as I can get it in, and snip it up a bit. Welded to do that. There you go. Not too tight, don't damage anything. Right, so now, will my slide hammer work? No movement as such. Give it some more heat. Okay, I've been at it for a good old 5 minutes there. You feel the heat coming off of her. So, fingers crossed. I'm going to pull with this and just get a whack. See the movement there. Let's give it a bit more of a whack, shall we? Tight on. Yep, we're coming out. Oh, my tea's going everywhere. Wow, that is one tight fit in there. Whoa. Guys, that's quite a long one. So we're out. Blimey, that was a pain in the arse. It's got an oil seal on it as well. So, my homemade tool worked. Bit noisy, but yeah, I'll just see what we got here. See, there you go, got an oil seal on it. I think that might come in the kit. Let's see. So now I've got to sort the other side out. Blimey. What's that? Yeah. Basically, peened over. What's that? That in there. Unpeen it. Get out of there. I need a little hammer or something. Or a big hammer. Just to get that off there. There you go. Weird. It looks like the fact there was a bit of like the edges have been knocked off these bolts. Looks like it's done at the factory though. I don't know if you can see that. It's all a bit jarred, as you say. So this cover, there was two of them, like so. It's got a little leg on it, and that leg. It pushed up against the other rocker shaft, and that one's got a groove in it, interestingly. So, or would that be easy to take out? Let's see. There's the bottom one. I always like putting nuts and bolts back in the same order they come out with, so I always do this, for example, so we know where it's going, don't we? Over there somewhere safe. theory, is that cover there? Okay, so that little bit sticking down there obviously locates into there as well to keep that at a certain, I don't know what that is exactly, there might be some little bearing cover, so it all locates back in the correct places. Can that come up? Oh, look at that. It comes straight out. And there we have, it probably helped because it was still very warm. So it's like a solid bearing on there. A solid bearing, which keeps located from that little bit there. The cam lobes look good. I'm trying to keep you in focus here. It's hard to see on this. I think I'm focused back here, but the cam lobes look good. No scores or anything. Probably that. I've had engines in the past. I worked on a friend's XS650. It was actually a TX 650, a Yamaha, and it had top end lubrication failure down to what was it? There's a pipe at the front of the engine which gives the top end oil, and that was just leaking like buggery. And that was just flattened off. You can see ridges either side. It's so worn. I'm surprised that thing ran. So that's out of there. Curious, will this come out now? Yes, there we go. With the cam removed, we got the rocker out. Again, that looks great. There's no wear on that at all. Again, any sort of pitting on these surfaces, any sort of scoring, you know you've got trouble. So I'm keeping these in order. What else we got? So I'm going to go through the same process of, I'm going to heat up again, it's starting to cool down. I don't want it to put any sort of stress on this. This is a one big cast alloy. I'm going to heat this up again and I'll get that one out. Same process, I won't bother filming that. Okay. Interesting. So this one's got an indent one side, and that relates to an indent inside there, so it's got to go in a certain direction, like by looks of things. It looks like you've got to get that mark, you've got to get it in so that the marks are horizontal when reinstalling. That's off, there's no oil seal on that side. So there you go. Both of them out, and this rocker will come out with it. So it may have taken a little bit longer with welding and making a puller. Sorry, a slide hammer. That's what essentially it is. But saved yourself about 30 quid. Looks alright again, all good. Yeah, this engine's actually got about 15,000 miles in it, so it's not actually, I thought it's at 17, so 15 is not much really. So, cool. And I'm about to have another cup of tea, and then we can get these valves out. Yeah. Reset. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the valves out. I've got I think I just mentioned I've got a valve tool that I've had for years. I originally bought it for rebuilding air-cooled VW heads, so it's lasted me well. There are other ones available, but I haven't come across a head yet which this has not worked for me. Okay, again, there you go, Machine Mart. It was like £19.92 whenever I bought that. Probably a good 20 years ago, I imagine. Anyway, so let's get these valves out, shall we? Well, that's as small as it goes. Hopefully we've got enough. Yeah, wait. Oh, God. That was not what I expected. A little collet thing popped out. Get that to stay there, you bugger. Each other bit. I'll get it close up in a minute. There's 2 collets out. You want to try to slowly let that out. There you go. And that is it. It's over. Get that in order. So we got. Let me do it all together. There's 2 springs in there most likely. Yeah. There you go. Now we better get this valve out. This is the inlet valve. It's got a big inlet valve, tiny little outlet, exhaust. Look at them. Out she comes. Yeah, it almost looks like, well, this is the inlet valve, and there's a bit of corrosion on the back of it, bit of rust, but seal wise looks alright. There's no big sort of heavy pitting or anything. Up towards the head. Doesn't look too bad. The valve seats look really good actually. But then again, inlet valves always do fare better than exhaust, because obviously there's a lot less heat. Okay, so there we go. So let's get the exhaust out, the exhaust valve. Exactly the same process. Come on in. These little collets out. Are they collets? I think they're called collets. This is where handy. Got a magnetic screwdriver. Out she comes. Okay, put that down there. It's done its job. This is this way, isn't it? I just want to keep these in order. That's the inlet. That side. Memory serves. Yes, it was exhaust which had the rubber seal on. So for the spring, both springs, 2 little springs in there. Okay, then out with the valve. I'm just feeling for any sort of valve stem where any sort of wiggle. Nothing at all really. Again, no real problems there at all. No real issues. There's slight pitting. Very slight, but nothing to suggest that it wouldn't make a seal. So we've got the inlet and the exhaust. Well, the inlet looks really good, as does the exhaust actually. probably doesn't really need to be cut. I'm going to just run a little bit of fine paste over these though. It'll take a few seconds. And then the inlet, the valve itself, looks good. You know, there's no marks. The valve itself is very clean. It's all good. The exhaust valve, there's a little bit more carbon around that as expected. But again, but it's pretty smooth. No real having. I've seen really bad pitting before on valve seats. So you've got to grind them back quite a lot, but you can't grind them too much if they're really pitted, because you lose the angle and you've got to have them refaced, you know, from a machine shop. Anyway, I'm happy with that, but while we've got this off, I'm just going to reface these seats. Just, well, we're here now, so let's do it. Just before I regrind these valves, I'm just going to pop out these old valve oil seals, just because they come in the kit. I don't think they were leaking particularly, but you know, they come in the kit, so why not, eh? Pop them out like so. Just pop them in there, and that way we've got a better idea of valve guide wear. They're nice and smooth, aren't they? It's all good. And what I'm going to pop them out, that sort of, give them a little wiggle, and it's very minimal. These are good. There's not much wear in this engine. Make the same again with the inlet. Drop it down. Yeah, nice and smooth. That's great. And then again, little wiggle. Yeah. Nothing at all there. Very good. So the valve guides are good. Right, so now, just a bit of grinding. Now, usually, when you're grinding valves, if you're new to it, it's actually quite a simple process. But what you're doing, you get one of these valve grinding paste. Other makes are available, and usually, like this one, you've got fine one end and coarse on the other. And basically, I've had this for years, and look how much I use. You don't use much of it at all. It's like liquid sandpaper, basically. Okay. You usually start with coarse and go on to fine. These are quite good anyway, so I'm just going to go straight to fine. Okay. But what I'll do differently this time is, I've seen Musty One do this many a time, whereby instead of using the sucker on the wood, basically you get like a stick with two suckers on the end. Stick it to the end of the valve, you pop your paste around it, and then you basically there, okay, grinding the paste between the surface there and the valve seat. Okay, I can't find my stick, so I'm going to revert back to what Musty did. What he does, right? You have to what is in there. Basically a bit of rubber pipe, one end on the valve, one end in a drill, and then you just use the motion of the drill to be spinning the valve in the seat, not too fast. So I'm going to get this on there. The fiddly bit is getting this tiny pipe I've got on in the valve. But let's do it. I did a little trial run just now of getting this pipe on. A bit tight. You want it tight anyway. And it's on. mean, you could do that with your hand. You could do it by your hand, really, but that's what I'm doing. So we're limited with space because obviously the valve's in there. It's caught in by the bit of pipe. So I'm going to put a little bit of valve gone in paste just on the edge. Don't need that much. A lot of it gets pushed out anyway. You've got to sort of reset a few times. There you go. When I say reset, you've got to get the valve out a little bit like so, then sort of move it back around the lip because it gets sort of pushed out as you're doing it. Let's do this. I'm also going a slower speed. Okay. Just going to put the pipe straight in there. Into my drill. There we are. Tighten up. We're in. So I'm moving in and out while spinning. So here we go. We're spinning. Quite fun, isn't it? Get out of the way there. My tea. And already. The one downside about doing it this way is normally you're listening very carefully for changing tone, because as the valve seat gets smoother, then it sounds, the sound is, you get different tone from the, it starts off and it goes shh, and you can hear it differently, but obviously with power drill on you can't hear bugger all. I'm curious, let's see how that's gone. Let's have a look at this, shall we? We'll pull this off the back here. Okay. This valve out. Wipe off with my rags which have disappeared down here. That's good. That's much less effort than usual. Do a little bit more, I think, though. Let's have a look at this. What we're after, basically, is a nice grey line. With a similar imprint both sides. See that? A lovely grey line there. A lovely grey line there. So that's obviously been wonderful. That's great. Yeah, I recommend that process to anyone, guys. It's really good. I'm just going to time it more because there's a little bit of that's not dirt, is it? There's a little bit of few marks just on the edges there. It could be just staining again. I'll see if I can get rid of that. So I've got a line all the way around on here. But the actual seat itself looks really good. So I'm going to do that again now. So all we have after that little grinding session is, as you can see, a really nice line around there, corresponding to that on there. That's going to seal beautifully, okay? No pitting or anything. And the same with this side. That's in focus. But yeah, really nice dark grey, well, light grey line on there and there. So they're sealing really well, these valves now. So I'm happy to put this back together after a little bit of a clean. I ended up using one of these really soft wire wheels on the end of my sort of Dremel style tool. Just give it a little bit of a clean up. Top of the piston as well. And I've just got the other ring out. The grooves look good. So I'm just gonna. This ring's got sort of corrosion on top. So both rings, I've got this sort of little bit of corrosion on them. It doesn't seem to be causing them to stick, but I'm just going to get a very light bit of sort of like a scouring pad, a fine one. Just knock that off. Okay, got this fine pad. I use for like bodywork and stuff. Very much like the barrel, I think that these just been sort of stained. I just want to make sure there's none. Just clean off a little bit. Spend a bit of time doing this. I can't see any marks on these, so I'm keeping them up the way I've taken. This is the top of the. This is the where it's facing up on the piston, top of the piston here. I can't see. There's normally an indent or a little mark on them, saying which goes to top. Oh, actually, yeah. Yeah, there's an R. There's a sort of an R or an N on there, which should not be on the other side. No. Yeah, there's normally writing on top of the top of the rings, so dictating that they should be putting up. Okay, underneath as well. There we go. Much better. Tricky bit is getting the bugger back on again. So the oil ring's fine. I'm not going to bother taking that out. The grooves are nice and clean as well. Okay. Yeah, they're all cool. That cleaned up pretty well. So the top mark there. Let's just walk this on again. Again, these are they're brittle. They're not delicate, they're brittle. They're really hard metal. There you go. So they can just, I've never had one snap on me. But you've got to be careful and just walk it down, walkie. You might end up putting a few little scratches to the side of the thing, it's no biggie. There, down. We're in the first groove. Just going to walk it over the top. Oh. And again, do the same again. Well, I'll try to. So it can get tricky. You can get like feeler gauges and shimmy it down. Which probably might have to do. But I usually find it. I can just sort of walk these down a bit. So he says. There you go. That's the first one down. The other one is still in the barrel from when we've measured it. Let's get it out of there. There we're out. All rings are in, nice and smooth, nice and springy, and again, all in spec. It's all good stuff. So I'm just going to have a tidy up now, probably crack open a beer, and then we'll get onto the assembly.